Hello everyone, my name is, well, all 10 of you. My name is Alexander Vanoni, and I am making a YouTube video today after a long day of work because I've been procrastinating it for a while. So I'm just going to record this in one go, and we're going to see where it leads us. I'm going to be using my phone. I like to use paper and a whiteboard, but, I don't have those on me today, unfortunately. Such is life. The reason I wanted to make this video is because there has been a trend in the news recently that I've been seeing, and I think I disagree with a lot of people on it. And it's frustrating me because the more I look at it, the more I just can't seem to see why. I mean, I can see why people believe this, but I just think it's pretty stupid. So, yeah. A couple of days ago, the reason why I'm making this video is Prime Minister François Bayrou, leading a minority centrist government, has triggered a confidence vote on September 8, 2025 to secure support for his austerity-driven budget plan, which includes $44 billion in spending cuts to address France's ballooning deficit. So, this was a rare case in French politics where the left and right wing were actually on the same page for once, and they both agreed that these spending cuts weren't worth it and that they were a bad idea. Well, I disagree quite severely. I think that not every, but most developed nations in the world, including the UK, the US, France, Japan, China, should be cutting public services. They should also be increasing taxes. They should be trying to mitigate the impending disaster of their budgets, because if they don't, it will be worse. And I think this is something that I mean, people generally know, oh, the deficit is bad, it's real bad. Okay, but we don't see that right now. You're right, you don't. You don't see it right now because this nation, we all have this cancer, this disease, and we are choosing not to deal with it right now. In the early stages that it exists, we are choosing to ignore it so that we don't have to face the consequences of doing anything about it. We don't have to go to chemotherapy. And what does that mean? Well, that means that it's getting worse. And it will reach a point where it gets really bad. And by really bad, for you watching this video, as a personal example, my grandmother receives a social security check in order to pay for her rent, right? In 2033, maybe 2034 or 35, the US Social Security Trust Fund will not exist anymore because we will spend all that money. And this is using the US as an example, but many other nations in the world are following a similar trend. When you pay your taxes, the US government takes that money, some of it, and then it puts it in the savings account, and that money is then sent to another department in order so that they can spend it on, missiles or trains, whatever they want to spend it on. Occasionally, maybe your healthcare. And, well, we operate at a budget deficit. And you hear the words budget deficit, what does that mean? Well, that means that we spend more money than we make. Per month, we run about $290 billion on that deficit in the United States. That is real bad. Just to put that in perspective, if you cut the entire US military budget, you would still be paying 150, 140 billion a month. Maybe 120 billion a month. That's the entire US military defense budget. And obviously that's not going to happen, right? Even a 10% decrease would be unheard of, considering that they're now funneling tens of billions of dollars into the US military. So, what's the problem? if you keep like going down this rabbit hole and you keep having to take money out in order to pay for things like interest and defense, and you don't have enough money to do it, so you keep borrowing, well, what happens? Well, you have to get the money from somewhere. So where will that money come from? In an ideal world, you might like to believe that the government would fix everything. But you'd be wrong, because they never, well, they do sometimes, but it usually comes at your expense, and it will come at your expense, no matter what. So what happens to you? Well, by 2035, once this is actually affecting your life, your Social Security will be cut by 20%. So, my grandmother pays $2,000 in rent. She receives $2,000, these are like whatever numbers, you can make them up, $2,000 in Social Security. So she can't make her rent. Now what does that mean? Well, my grandmother doesn't work, it has to come out of her savings, right? So my grandmother, who is well-to-do more than most people, has savings. But does your grandmother have savings? What about your parents or anyone above the age of 55? How much money do you have in savings? Do you have enough money to pay for rent for the next 30 years of your life if you want to retire by 65? Because in 10 years, that's going to be the case. You are going to have savings, and not to mention inflation, so the value of your savings will decrease over time, and the government is going to print money in order to make up for this, so you will have even less money. So that's just Social Security. Just Social Security. Like, you have to take money out of your savings, maybe you have to move house, maybe you can't live anywhere. But surely there's a place for you to stay, right? Nope, there isn't a place for you to stay, because all the money that we would have spent on housing doesn't exist anymore, because that money came out of your Social Security check. Okay, that's not great. Well, my grandmother also relies on Medicare and Medicaid. Okay, now that will also be cut in, let's say, like, these are conservative estimates, 20%. How long, in your opinion, do you think your family could survive if your expenditures increased by 50 to 60%, and the value of your money decreased by another 20%? You may be all right. Around 50 to 80 million people in the United States will not be all right. And that's really bad. So, what is the solution? 291 billion per month in a deficit. You have to make that up. And how do you make that up? Well, Mr. Trump imposed tariffs, which, despite them being not great for GDP growth, you have to get the money from somewhere. So that's a solution, despite them, having various political effects and stagnating economic growth. I personally would not do that. But what you could do is you could increase taxes now by... you can do the maths on this, but it's all about the ratios. Like, if you increase taxes by 10% now, you don't have to cut the US military, and whatever your opinions on the US military budget, you don't have to cut the US Medicare by 300 billion. But even if you cut it by 300 billion, you're still only saving like 2.5 per month, which is sorry, 25 billion a month. Yeah, 25 billion a month. So you're going to have to cut it by so much. Like, all of these essential services that you take for granted will have to be cut. Do you not understand that? I just, like, you are gambling with your life. Like, of course, everyone would like to believe that the situation will resolve and maybe AGI will come along and it will fix everything for you and the economy will be entirely automated, and maybe I was so wrong. But I recognize that as a possibility. What I think is really, really, really fucking stupid is if you gamble all on that and you don't deal with the problem now so that it isn't catastrophic for you in 10 to 15 years' time. And I can't pretend to understand the situations of people who rely on these services to the extent that they do. Like food stamps. I'm not on food stamps. Or significant medical care that we cannot provide privately. I don't have that. But what I do understand is that whatever you have now will not exist in 10 to 15 years if we continue to pay for it. And the discussion shouldn't be, should we cut benefits or should we cut how much we spend? It should be where and how much, because it will have to come from everywhere. The question is just who you want to fuck over the most. Like, if you're the US, how much do you care about the defense of the Gulf of India? Is that even an ocean? Or the Red Sea? Or how much do you care about your military bases on the Solomon Islands? Or your military bases in Malawi? Like, or how many people could you condemn to death over the next 10 years to preserve those who could live? Or would you like to make it impossible to travel from Ohio to Boston by train and cut national rail services? Well, not national rail services, but like public transport services. Would you like to cut, US foreign aid? Whatever you do, you're going to have to increase taxes anyway. You should just do it now. But the thing is that, first of all, politicians are some of the most cowardly individuals on the planet. I will say, though, those who are trying to cut services and increase taxes, they're doing the right thing, no? I can't see why that is a bad idea. That is a supremely good idea, so that you don't get fucked over in 13 years. And I see people complaining about this, and I'm like, gang, do we not understand what is going on here? You're complaining about a 20% reduction in your services because in 10 years you will have a 90% reduction. And the economy will improve over the next 20 years. So if you suffer a little bit now, we can correct the budget deficit, and then in 15 or 20 years, you can have a good life. Which is better than having a good life now for 8 to 10 years, and then having a miserable existence for the next 30 years. Because current projections show, 200% public debt to GDP ratio by 2049 in the US? This is completely excluding the demographic crisis, which will just passively increase spending as well. So, regardless of whatever decision we make now, things are going to get sucky for at least 5 years. If we handle things perfectly, like if we start right now, and everyone is on the same page, maybe we can avoid some of the crisis. But when your politicians are trying to do something about it, I can't pretend to understand the plight of everyone. I'm not but it's, what would you suggest? Just wait? See what's going to happen? I don't know. If anyone has disagreeing opinion on this, I would love to hear it of the, just my friends who end up watching this video. But every time I look at this and I see the Social Security treasury running out by 2033, I see public debt to GDP ratio increasing to 120, 130, 150%. That is unsustainable. It's completely unsustainable. You will not have a semblance of the life you have now. Your eggs will cost $100 each. Public transport will break down. Your country might be overrun because it can't pay for its military. And you will have no healthcare. Come on. You cannot tell me that that is a better alternative than cutting all of those, evenly now. I'm not saying slightly, I'm saying majorly. If it were me, you cut the US defense budget in half, you take whatever L's you want around the world, and maybe that's a stupid decision, but what are you supposed to do? What the fuck are you supposed to do? Oh, sorry. I know what you're supposed to do if you're the US government. You invest more money in the military, and then you go to war, and then you win, and you kill hundreds of millions of people, and then you get them to pay back your loans because you are morally abhorrent. We are acting like this hasn't happened countless times in history. But it has. And yet we keep falling for it. We just keep making the same stupid decisions we've been making our entire existence because we forget how shit it can get. Anyway, kind of went on a rant, and that's all I wanted to say. So, yeah, I'll catch you later.